Hey, I'm John, and I wanted to record this video about why I think Stepn is a big deal if it's allowed to stay in the App Store. I think that Apple's approval of Stepn sets a new precedent for the App Store. If you don't know about Stepn already, it's a move to earn game. So you walk outside or run outside and earn tokens that you can then redeem for real money. People are earning hundreds or thousands of dollars a day, and it's growing really quickly. So the last number I heard is that they have 700,000 daily active users, but it's growing fast and still requires an activation code. So anyone who wants to join needs to get an activation code from someone who already plays the game. And overall, there's a big trend of this game introducing new people to cryptocurrency and NFTs. So it's pretty interesting for that reason too. So far, Stepn has brought in their first quarter $26 million in profit. And that's a lot for an app. And it all came from their in-app marketplace where people can buy and sell sneakers. And so you're always buying these NFT sneakers from other users. You need to have one of these sneakers to actually earn in the game. And all of that revenue was in Solana from the commissions in the marketplace. So Apple and Google didn't get a cut of that revenue. So as I said, you have to own a virtual sneaker, an NFT, in the game to be able to earn. And so right now when I'm recording this video, I think it's around a $600 upfront cost just to get one sneaker. So people are putting a lot of money into this game, but there's a risk that I think a lot of people aren't really considering. But first I do want to say, because I'm talking about a risk associated with it, I don't want this to be seen as, a negative thing about Stepn. I love Stepn. I've been playing since December 2021. I want to keep playing it, and I know a lot of people who are a lot healthier because of this app. They're getting outside and walking, and I hope that this app has a really long life because I think it can have a really positive impact on the world. When I first read about the app in October 2021, I thought, this is a great idea, but I doubt it can get approved by Apple for the App Store. I'm an app developer myself. I've gone through the experience of submitting apps, getting them approved, getting them rejected, and I'm very familiar with the criteria that Apple uses to decide whether an app can be in the App Store or not. But in February 2022, it did get approved, and I think that approval really sets a new precedent for iOS app business models because it's so different from what we've seen before. Or maybe it won't stay approved, and that's what I'm talking about today. So Stepn needs to be a native app. It has to be an app on your phone rather than just a website because it uses GPS and motion data, like the accelerometer when you move your phone around, in the background. And you can't really do that with just a website. But Apple and Google make the rules for their respective stores. So either Apple with the App Store or Google with the Google Play Store could decide to remove Stepn at any time. And I don't think this would necessarily mean the end of Stepn overall, but it would make it a lot harder for them to get distribution. Android, for example, has side loading, so you can basically download a file of an app from somewhere on the internet and install it on your phone. The iOS App Store does not have that. So there still would be a market on Android phones for Stepn if it got removed from the stores. But for this today, I'm going to be just focusing on the Apple App Store because that's what I have experience with. But a lot of the same things apply for the Google Play Store. So Apple publishes this document called the App Store Review Guidelines. You can Google it. You can read the whole thing if you want. They've had this since the beginning of the App Store, and they've made a few changes here and there over the years, but it's pretty infrequently changed. And so Apple makes these rules for what can be in the App Store and what's not allowed. And an iOS app pretty much needs to be in the App Store, a consumer app anyway, to be successful. And something that a lot of people don't necessarily know is that every single time there's an app in the App Store, and for every update you get of that app, someone at Apple is looking at the app and deciding against these guidelines whether it can be in the store or not. And I want to mention that it can be an opaque and inconsistent process sometimes. So if you do get rejected, you'll get an email. It's not even an email. It's like a message on Apple's website. And it's not from a real person. I mean, it's from a person probably, but you don't know the person's name. It's not a very personal process. You get this email that says, hey, you violated this section in this app. You can make these changes, and then it might get approved. So it's an inconsistent process sometimes because it's a little bit luck of the draw of who reviews it. You might not get the same experience every time. So for example, something can get through app review multiple times, and then in another update that changes something else about the app, whoever's reviewing it that time around might decide this is not allowed about something that's, been in the app for a while. So just because something's in the App Store now doesn't mean that it always will be. I asked Stepn about this on an April 2nd AMA. You can look it up on YouTube. My question was about an hour and 10 minutes in. I asked Jerry, the co-founder, and he said that they have very good communication with Apple and Google, that they follow all the rules of the stores. And he even hinted that they might have some integration or be working with Apple in the future. So that was a good sign. But what I'm wondering is, even though this has been getting through app review, is this okay with Apple all the way up the org chart? Are the executives at the top really thinking that, this is an app that they want to get behind and have in the App Store? I don't know. But let's get into that. What's novel about Stepn? Why am I concerned about this? What are the concerns with regard to these App Store review guidelines? Well, the first thing is that you earn cryptocurrency in the app. And there are other apps where you earn cryptocurrency for certain things, but with Stepn, we're talking about people making, hundreds or thousands of dollars a day, and I don't know of any other apps that allow that. On top of that, you could go for a walk and earn GST, which is their in-game token, and then within 24 hours, you could have that cashed out into US dollars in your bank account. So, you're earning decent money, and then you're able to get it right out into US dollars very quickly. So I think that's a little bit different than a lot of these other apps where you can earn, a couple cents worth of crypto a day, maybe. There's a whole section of the App Store review guidelines that's specifically about cryptocurrencies. This area has changed a little bit over the years, so it's an area to watch for sure. And there's a specific section that says cryptocurrency apps may not offer currency for completing tasks. So my question with that is, are going for walks and going for runs completing tasks? I don't know. So far, it seems like it doesn't count. Let's move on to the next one, though. So this section 3.1, especially section 3.1.1, is a really important section of the App Store review guidelines. So it basically says that if you want to offer to users to unlock something in your app for a cost, you have to use Apple's built-in in-app purchase system. And that's the one where you have to do Face ID or Touch ID, and it pops up the little banner at the bottom that tells you exactly how much it'll cost, and Apple handles all the credit card processing and everything on behalf of the developer. They basically say you have to use that system. It's a consistent experience for users, but also Apple gets 15 to 30% of every transaction. So it's in their interest to want to have developers using that system. But they say that apps may not use their own mechanisms to unlock content or functionality. And in Stepn, you need to have this NFT to unlock the potential to earn with the app. So what I'm wondering is, does earning requiring a sneaker, is that considered their own mechanism for unlocking functionality? So far, it seems like it's not, but it's something that I'm a little concerned about, and I wonder what we'll see with other apps that try to do the same thing. And then finally, one of the big areas that's a real big gray area is the idea that you can buy and sell NFTs, the sneakers, in the app with cryptocurrency. So with Solana or BNB, Binance's token at this point. And so you're not buying the NFTs directly from Stepn, but Stepn makes a commission from the sales, and Apple doesn't get a cut of that as far as we know. So what I'm wondering here is, are there any other apps that let you buy and sell with cryptocurrency in the app? It's a precedent that I'd like to see with some other apps that would give me more confidence that Apple really means to have Stepn in the App Store doing this. Stepn revenue is quite a bit for an app. $26 million in their first quarter in business is pretty crazy, especially considering it only went into the App Store on February 6th of this year. So it's pretty much 2 months worth. I can't wait to see what the numbers are for the second quarter of 2022. But it's not that big compared to the overall size of the App Store. So the App Store itself, when you consider the price of all the apps and in-app purchases that are sold in the store, that total number before Apple's cut is about $100 billion. It's not quite there yet, but it's high double-digit billions the past few years. And so if you consider Apple's cut of that would be 15 to 30%, they're making like 15 to 30 billion dollars from their cut of App Store revenue, which $26 million compared to 100 billion isn't very much. But what I'm wondering is if this is really okay, what Stepn is doing, and this is really the new precedent that's allowed for apps, what happens when more apps shift to this crypto model where Apple's not necessarily getting a cut? Apple really cares about this section 3.1 and especially this section 3.1.1 about in-app purchases a lot. If you go back to 2016, there was a situation where Spotify basically told people that they could sign up on the Spotify website instead of the app, and they even offered a discount that was only on the website. Also, before that, they were charging $13 a month if you signed up through the app, or $10 a month on the website to account for that 30% that Apple was taking on that sale. And that makes a lot of sense. I mean, they're paying royalties on music. They don't have a lot of margin to work with, so they might not be able to even afford to offer subscriptions with that 30% cut. Apple said basically, no, Spotify, you can't offer a discount to people and promote it in your app if they go sign up on the website. You can only use in-app purchases for subscriptions. You can't build your own subscription system into the app that avoids that commission. And you can't really tell people about your website in the app. So that's a pretty big precedent. I mean, it's in the App Store review guidelines now, but it basically says that you can't, in your app, tell people, hey, you can go to the website to sign up. So in 2018, Netflix actually removed their in-app purchase subscription from the app because they didn't want to pay Apple this percentage. So there's actually no way to subscribe to Netflix in the Netflix app if you download the Netflix app today. There's also this section 3.1.3a, which is about reader apps, which actually goes back to when there were these bookstores on the iPad at first. But basically that specifically deals with subscriptions that unlock content. It's a little bit outside of the scope of this discussion, but it's worth noting that Netflix falls under this reader app provision. But anyway, Netflix has to put this funny language that says, it's kind of vague and says members who subscribe can watch in the app, but they don't really have any instructions about how to sign up because they're not allowed to. But you can hit the help button and you can call Netflix for help. And it basically pops up this phone screen and the call plays a recording that says you can go sign up on the website if you want to get an account and, use the Netflix app. So it's kind of a funny workaround that they did to build this whole phone interface, basically to play a recording to tell people go to the website to sign up. In June 2020, this was actually a pretty big deal among app developers because Hey.com, which is created by some well-known software developers, it's an email app. It's basically, think about Gmail, but you pay for it and it's more private instead of giving Google all your information. They submitted an app that kind of did the same thing as Netflix, where it just had a login screen and some vague language about, hey, you have to sign up for this app somewhere in order to get a login. And Apple actually declined it from the App Store. They rejected it and they said, you're not a reader app, so you can't really do this login screen thing. I think that was their reasoning there. And they basically told the developers that they had to build a whole functionality for people who don't have an account so that they could try it out. Basically, this developer had to go back. They had to go back and these people had to make a whole new system that allowed people to start a free trial, and they had to jump through all these hoops just in order to get accepted to the App Store to meet the minimum functionality guideline, which is another guideline. So this was an interesting one because it really was Apple standing their ground on not every app not being able to do this, just, hey, there's a login screen and you have to get an account somewhere, and we're not going to offer an in-app purchase to let you subscribe through the app. A really big one, though, was a couple months later in August 2020 when Fortnite, which is made by Epic Games, they rolled out an update that had a hidden system where instead of an in-app purchase, people could buy the in-app currency, V-Bucks, with their own credit card. And Epic would process the credit card, and it was outside of the in-app purchase system for a lower price than the in-app purchase price. So they rolled it out that wasn't evident in the version that got through app approval, but then once it was approved, they turned on remotely this system to accept credit cards. And Apple told them they had to change it basically that day or the next day. And immediately the next day after that, Epic sued Apple, and they rolled out this whole campaign in their app, basically bad mouthing Apple to all of their users, and really trying to make their case that they should be able to accept their own payment system for a discount on V-Bucks. So it was clear that they rolled out this change pretty much expecting Apple to decline it. So all this is to say that Apple has drawn a very hard line on this Section 3.1 and Section 3.1.1 specifically that has to do with in-app purchases. They've spent a lot of time, they spent a lot of money on lawyers, and they've spent a lot of developer goodwill. So they kind of made a lot of developers angry to some extent, because a lot of developers, maybe especially bigger developers, want to be able to have their own system to accept payments and handle all of that and not pay Apple this percentage. But Apple has really had a hard stance on requiring in-app purchases for digital items in apps and games. They've squashed a lot of these attempts to use other systems for purchases and for unlocking features and content within apps. So also, they don't take this lightly. Apple doesn't seem to take this lightly because there are a lot of governments around the world that are watching this closely and consider it anti-competitive to only allow in-app purchases and not outside payment systems. So the EU is big on this. South Korea, there's some stuff going on. In the Netherlands, there's something specific to dating apps where Apple's actually paying a 5 million euro fine every week because the Netherlands, this regulatory board in the Netherlands, says that they have to allow a third-party payment system for dating apps only. So it's all stuff you can watch if you're or look into if you're really interested in this. So with all this precedent defending Section 3.1, it would be very strange for Apple to stop fighting about this and not care about an app that's sort of in a gray area and overlook an app that seems to circumvent it, which Stepn might be doing. I don't know. But that's why I want to talk about what's different about Stepn that doesn't quite fit with this other precedent. Well, the first thing is it's kind of like a marketplace, or it is a marketplace. You know, when you're buying and selling these NFTs, it's kind of like eBay where you're buying something from another user. You're not buying it directly from the developer of the app, so maybe that makes a difference in their eyes. And maybe it's okay to take a commission on those sales, assuming that these NFTs are kind of like physical goods that have specific ownership with one person rather than digital goods that might be more infinite, like something in a game. So some people speculate that Stepn might be getting special treatment from Apple because they've raised money from some big venture capital firms that could sort of lobby on their behalf. For example, Sequoia is huge. And you know, they might have a better relationship with Apple that can kind of help grease the wheels a little bit for Stepn. Also, maybe there are secret revenue sharing deals that we don't know about yet that could be going on where Apple does get some percentage of these commissions from in-app purchases in crypto. I don't know though. I think that latter one is pretty unlikely. And finally, cryptocurrency is kind of new and a lot of people still don't look at it as real money. So the fact that these sales are not happening in USDC or another stable coin that has a US dollar equivalent to this, you know, fiat currency or other fiat currencies around the world might mean that in-app purchases aren't required for it. I asked John Gruber on Twitter. I follow his website and podcasts where he talks about this type of thing a lot. You know, this whole saga of Apple and defending in-app purchases and what developers can do. And he said, if you're not buying things with actual money, then it's not like they're dodging the App Store rules. So I think that's an interesting take on it. And it's one that I've seen a lot of people talking about. Hey, it's not in US dollars. So, you know, it's probably, that could be a reason why it's okay. But I do want to talk about something adjacent to that, which is tips with in-app purchases. So the App Store review guidelines say that apps may use in-app purchases to let people tip the developer. So for example, you get a free app, but then there's a section in the app that says, hey, if you like this app, you can give the developer a couple bucks with an in-app purchase. But apps have been rejected for allowing tips in crypto, even though they also allow tips in in-app purchases. So this is a purchase that's not unlocking any functionality, but Apple has taken this stance that, hey, you can't even, let people give you money directly to the developer in crypto. So that's an interesting one. It's kind of this other weird gray area that deals with crypto. So I thought it was worth mentioning here as we think about the bigger picture of Stepn and what this all means for the App Store in general. So let's just take a quick recap of App Store trends to watch with regard to Stepn. So the first is cryptocurrency for completing tasks. Are we going to see more enforcement of that? I think we're going to have to see Apple draw the line somewhere, because right now there are a lot of apps where you can earn cryptocurrency for doing certain things, and what's too much, what isn't allowed. And are we going to see changes to that specific section of the App Store review guidelines? I think that might have to happen at some point, because right now it seems like they're not quite following what is in there and how it's worded now. Another area is unlocking functionality. So right now in Stepn, you have to have one of these NFTs to actually earn in the app. And so I'm wondering, are there any other apps that you know of that gate features with an NFT? I think that could be really interesting. And if it's actually okay with Apple, I think this means a lot of new app business models. For example, Netflix and Spotify could have membership NFTs that you can buy in a marketplace in their app and then unlock your subscription that way, instead of, paying for a subscription with an in-app purchase. So I think it's an interesting area, and it's one where, I'm looking again for another example of an app that gates functionality with an NFT to see whether I have a lot of confidence in Stepn staying in the App Store. And then the final one, the big one, that I think is kind of the biggest gray area, because there isn't something that specifically addresses it in the App Store review guidelines, is the marketplace. It's uncharted territory. Are there any other apps that you know of? Please let me know if you do, that allow people to make purchases in cryptocurrency for items in a game or an app. I'm wondering, are we going to see high profile rejections around this if other people try to do that? Especially OpenSea, the biggest NFT marketplace. You can download their app right now, you can browse NFTs, you can connect your wallet and see your own NFTs, but you can't buy and sell or list NFTs for sale in the app. And I'm wondering, have they just not submitted an app? Have they submitted an app and been rejected for it? It's a really interesting one to me to watch, especially Magic Eden too, which is the biggest Solana NFT marketplace. Their app's in a very similar state. You can browse, maybe they have other priorities and they haven't tried to actually submit a version where you can buy and sell in the app, but it seems like they would want to have that on mobile, and I kind of wonder why they haven't yet. It is worth noting though, if you go to the OpenSea website in MetaMask or another wallet, you can actually buy and sell that way. So you can do it on mobile, just not in their app. So what's next? This is just kind of a crazy prediction that I have, but it might happen someday, is that Apple's really well positioned to build a crypto wallet right into iOS. So obviously we're very early on this, and crypto's not very mainstream yet, but as apps like Stepn bring more people into it, I think Apple's really well positioned, because they have a lot of hardware-based security right now. For example, with Touch ID and Face ID, and the way that the passcode system works to encrypt your data, it leaves them in a good position to offer some sort of secure hardware wallet for crypto. And also, a big problem with a lot of new people getting into crypto is understanding seed phrase management, and being able to actually keep their wallets secure, but not get locked out of their own wallets. And so Apple's actually done a lot of interesting stuff with the user experience around iCloud accounts to enable you to trust a family member or a close friend to be able to unlock your account, if you lock yourself out. So with crypto wallets, that could be a really good fit. And then another step they could take is, if they do have their own built-in wallet, they could require developers to use that built-in wallet and charge a fee on in-app transactions that way. So obviously that wouldn't be what everybody would want to happen, but it's one possible path that I could see, them taking to legitimize, I guess, crypto transactions as far as they're concerned on the platform. So this could be the beginning of a new era as long as they mean to have Stepn in the App Store and they're cool with it. I think this sets a great new precedent with a lot of exciting possibilities for all kinds of apps in the future. But I do want to bring this up because if you're putting money into Stepn and you're buying these shoes thinking you're going to be able to play this forever, I think it's a considerable risk that it could leave the app store overnight. It's still very early. It's been only a few months that it's even been in the app store. So I really invite you to get in touch with me. Let me know your opinion on this. Leave a comment below, especially if you know of any of these apps that are doing any of these things I mentioned, like gating features with NFTs or allowing in-app transactions in crypto. But thanks for watching. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram. Follow me on YouTube if you want to watch some of my DJ mixes. And yeah, thanks again.